Morning in Istanbul begins with a familiar symphony. In the chilly air of early dawn, the deep horns of ferries echo from the Bosphorus, blending with the restless cries of seagulls overhead. But the sound that truly wakes the city is the rhythmic call of simit vendors along the sidewalks. On their red, glass-covered carts, rows of round bread rings coated in golden, toasted sesame seeds are stacked on top of each other. Whenever the vendor lifts one up, hot steam rises into the air, carrying the rich smell of freshly baked dough. That simple bread quietly rests in the hands of the locals, flowing naturally with the fast pace of the city, like a greeting to a brand new day. Turkish cuisine is famous for its luxurious feasts and rich plates of saucy kebabs served in elegant restaurants. Yet, for many travelers, the most unforgettable experience is sitting on a bench by the windy shores of the Bosphorus while receiving a hot simit that costs only a few coins. The moment you take a bite, the crispy sesame crust blends perfectly with the chewy texture of the bread inside, surrounded by the salty smell of the sea. Slowly enjoying this humble bread with a cup of hot tea somehow makes everything slow down for a moment. It creates a gentle feeling of nostalgia, warming away the cold sea breeze and leaving a memory that stays deep in your mind. Simit is nothing fancy, yet it exists in the lives of the people here as naturally as breathing. Walk through the streets and you will see everyone eating it, from businessmen stepping out of luxury cars to tired street cleaners finishing a long day of work. The beauty of this bread is that it always makes people want to share. On the ferries crossing the city, one of the most familiar sights is someone tearing a simit in half and handing it to another person, while children happily hold leftover pieces toward the sky, waiting for seagulls to swoop down and snatch them right from their hands. Then, as evening falls and the street carts slowly pack away beneath the sunset, you suddenly realize that simit has quietly become part of the soul of this city, a simple bread ring, yet somehow powerful enough to define the spirit of Istanbul itself. So, what makes Turkish simit so impossible to forget? Let's find out. Imagine traveling back in time to Istanbul during the 14th and 15th centuries, when the Ottoman Empire was rising into one of the most magnificent powers in the world. Between the sound of horse hooves echoing through the stone streets and the sight of grand buildings slowly rising across the city, Istanbul revealed a beauty that felt both ancient and majestic. Back then, the imperial capital was not only a center of power, filled with silk fabrics and rare spices, but also a place where a rich culinary culture was quietly flourishing. And it was during those glorious years that the simit bread ring first appeared, slowly becoming part of the city's breath and soul from the very beginning. Yet few people know that this humble bread actually came from a surprisingly noble place inside the magnificent Topkapi Palace. In those days, simit was considered a treasure of the royal kitchens, where palace chefs carefully shaped every ring of dough by hand. For the sultans, simit was never just food. It was a prestigious reward, a symbol of honor and recognition. On special occasions, the Sultan himself would personally present these fragrant bread rings to the elite Janissaries guards. Receiving a simit directly from the ruler's hands was far more than simply receiving bread. To the soldiers, it carried pride, respect, and a sense of honor that very few people would ever experience. But in the end, even the thick palace walls could not keep such a beloved flavor hidden forever. As centuries passed and history continued to change, simit slowly stepped out from the royal courts and became part of everyday life. From a gift once reserved for emperors, it turned into a familiar companion that fueled poor workers, cart drivers, and schoolchildren every morning. Today, while walking along the windy shores of the Bosphorus, the sight of red street carts filled with freshly baked simit has become one of the city's most recognizable symbols. The bread has truly left behind its royal past and transformed into something even greater, the soul of modern Istanbul. Simple, humble, and deeply loved by its people. Many people often wonder, among the countless types of bread around the world, why does such a simple bread ring like simit remain so special and unforgettable after so many centuries? The answer begins with its flavor, a unique symphony of contrasts that is almost impossible to find anywhere else. Simit is not fully sweet like pastries, yet it is also far more than an ordinary savory bread. From the very first bite, your taste buds are awakened all at once by a gentle sweetness, a rich, nutty flavor, and a subtle, smoky aroma from the wood fire. Somehow, those completely opposite flavors blend together in perfect harmony, creating a deeply memorable taste that leaves many travelers longing for it long after they leave Turkey. That special flavor comes from an unusual combination between the light sweetness of grape molasses, known as pekmez, and the thick layer of toasted sesame seeds covering the outside of the bread. Before being baked, every ring of dough is carefully dipped into a rich stream of grape molasses by the baker's hands. This process gives the bread its shiny amber-brown coating that wraps gently around the soft dough inside. Right after that, the bread is rolled heavily through layers of fragrant toasted sesame seeds until every inch of the surface is completely covered. Once exposed to high heat, the sesame seeds begin releasing their rich, natural oils, blending with the lightly bubbling grape molasses on the surface and creating a deep aroma so recognizable that even from far away, people immediately know it is simit. Everything becomes even more magical once the bread is placed inside traditional stone ovens fired entirely with pine wood. The heat from the burning pine spreads evenly around the bread, slowly turning the pekmez coating into caramel and creating a dark, golden crust that becomes wonderfully crisp, making a satisfying crackling sound with every bite. Yet the true magic behind simit is that no matter how crunchy the outside becomes, the inside of the bread still stays perfectly moist and chewy, never dry or hard. And as you chew slowly, a faint smell of pine smoke lingers softly in the background, an old, comforting flavor that somehow brings you closer to the warmest and most authentic soul of Istanbul itself. Besides its one-of-a-kind flavor, there is another reason why people can never forget simit: the power hidden inside the generations of hands that twist and shape it. In a world where almost everything is slowly becoming automated, this simple bread ring still stands proudly because it carries the spirit of pure craftsmanship. When you hold a simit in your hands, you never feel that cold, lifeless perfection of industrial factory bread. Instead, it feels rustic, alive, and deeply human. Every step, from kneading the dough to shaping the rings and turning them inside the oven, depends entirely on the touch and care of the baker's own hands, rather than machines. And it is exactly those quiet traces of handmade work that make the bread feel familiar, warm, and somehow full of soul. The truth is, no modern machine can truly create a perfect simit the way skilled bakers do. The secret lies in the technique of tightly twisting two strands of dough together. A simple yet incredibly delicate craft passed down through generations of Ottoman bakers. Watching them work is almost mesmerizing. With just the right pressure in their hands and a strange sense of precision built through years of experience, they quickly twist the long strips of dough together before joining them into a perfect circle. That twist is never random. It directly affects the chewy texture, the even rise of the bread, and the iconic shape that makes simit instantly recognizable. This is not the kind of skill you learn from books. It survives through observation, through practice, and through the silent lessons passed from the hands and eyes of one generation to the next. And because every simit is shaped entirely by real human hands, each bread ring that comes out of the oven becomes a one-of-a-kind creation, carrying the warmth, sweat, and dedication of the traditional baker behind it. Somewhere in the world, you may find thousands of simit breads, but you will never find two that are completely identical. One may have a slightly wider ring, another may carry a thicker layer of sesame seeds, while some develop darker spots on the crust, depending on the heat inside the stone oven. In their own quiet way, each bread reflects the personality, emotions, and craftsmanship of the person who made it at that exact moment. And maybe that is why simit has become something far greater than ordinary street food. It feels more like a humble piece of folk art, carrying within it the warmth, honesty, and soul of both its people and the ancient land it came from. Beyond its one-of-a-kind flavor and the rough handmade marks left behind by the baker's devoted hands, there is another reason why people stay attached to simit for so long: the warmth of hospitality and the beauty of sharing. This bread becomes unforgettable because it is deeply connected to some of the purest and most comforting memories people carry about Turkey. Simit is not simply a famous street food sold on busy sidewalks. It quietly exists beside everyday life, becoming part of countless warm and ordinary moments. For many Turkish people living far away from home, the smell of freshly baked simit early in the morning is more than just the smell of bread. It is the smell of childhood, of family breakfasts, of old streets filled with familiar voices and memories. Those simple moments, together with the kind smiles of simit vendors standing beside their little red carts, slowly create a feeling of homesickness so deep that even travelers who only visit once often carry it with them for years after leaving the country.
If you ever visit Istanbul, you will probably witness one of the city's most iconic and emotional scenes while riding the ferries across the windy Bosphorus. Surrounded by the endless blue of the sea and sky, Turkish people have a simple habit that somehow feels incredibly poetic. They slowly tear small pieces of simit apart and toss them gently into the air for the seagulls following behind the ferry. The birds glide through the cold wind, catching the pieces of bread between the sound of crashing waves and the deep echo of ferry horns. In that moment, everything feels strangely peaceful and free. It is more than simply feeding birds. It feels like a quiet connection between people, nature, and a traditional bread that has existed beside this city for centuries. That simple little scene has become one of the most unforgettable images of Istanbul, something so romantic and human that no other city can truly copy. And the spirit of sharing carried by simit does not stop with nature. It also becomes a bridge connecting people to one another. Turkish people have an unspoken custom that feels both gentle and meaningful. Instead of cutting simit with a knife, they usually break it apart slowly with their hands. That small gesture carries a feeling of closeness and sincerity. They break bread to share with close friends, to offer half to a stranger sitting beside them on a long ferry ride, or simply to begin a casual conversation over a hot glass of tea. Eating simit, therefore, is never only about satisfying hunger. It is about receiving warmth, kindness, and the open-hearted hospitality of an entire culture. Somehow, that simple bread ring has quietly become a symbol of human connection itself, reminding people that the sweetest moments in life have always come from sharing something small with someone else. And finally, the reason why simit stays in the hearts of almost everyone who has ever visited this place is because this simple bread represents something truly precious: the beauty of slowing down in the middle of a fast-moving modern world. Today, while large cities across the globe continue rushing forward in endless noise and pressure, simit quietly brings people back to a slower and more peaceful rhythm of life. Turkish people rarely eat while walking quickly just to finish a meal and move on with the day. Instead, they prefer to pause, sit down properly, and take their time enjoying every bite of freshly baked bread. That calm and unhurried way of living transforms eating simit into something much deeper than an ordinary breakfast or street snack. It becomes a small emotional ritual, a gentle experience that reminds people to appreciate the present moment and find comfort in simple, everyday things. In Turkey, simit almost never comes alone. Beside it is always its lifelong companion, a hot glass of black tea known as chai, carefully poured into the famous tulip-shaped glass cups that have become a symbol of Turkish culture. The crispy crust of simit, filled with the rich and nutty flavor of toasted sesame seeds, blends perfectly with the deep taste of strong black tea. The tea carries a slight bitterness at first, before slowly leaving behind a soft sweetness on the tongue, creating a balance that feels strangely comforting and complete. Under the sunlight, the small tulip-shaped glass reflects the dark amber-red color of the tea beside the humble bread ring, forming an image so simple, yet so beautiful, that it has quietly become one of the most recognizable symbols of daily life in Istanbul. You can find this scene almost everywhere, from tiny roadside tea stalls hidden inside narrow alleys to peaceful balconies overlooking the windy shores of the Bosphorus. What makes the experience even more special is the way Turkish people enjoy simit together with others. They often pair the bread with creamy white cheese, slices of cucumber, tomatoes, or salty Mediterranean olives, placed carefully on small breakfast tables. Then, they pull their chairs closer beneath the shade of old trees or beside breezy porches, and spend hours talking about family stories, old memories, friendships, and the small details of everyday life. Nobody seems to rush. Time slows down naturally around the table. Somehow, this humble bread ring has the power to turn even the most ordinary meal into a peaceful pause, a quiet space where the worries of life slowly fade into the background and make room for warmth and human connection. Taking a bite of warm simit, sipping hot tea, and quietly watching people move through the streets, these simple little moments are exactly what make the bread so unforgettable. Simit has slowly become more than just a traditional food. It has become a symbol of togetherness, comfort, and gentle happiness hidden inside everyday life. In a modern world where people are always hurrying toward the next destination, Simit quietly reminds them to slow down, breathe, and cherish the people sitting beside them before the moment passes by. After surviving countless changes throughout history, many things have slowly faded into the past. Yet Simit has remained, carrying a flavor that feels almost immortal with time itself. Through hundreds of years of rise and decline, from the royal kitchens inside the magnificent Topkapi Palace to the little red carts standing along the streets today, Simit has never lost the simple and sincere soul it carried from the very beginning. No matter how quickly life outside continues to change, no matter how many skyscrapers rise to replace the old neighborhoods, that sesame-covered bread ring still quietly exists in the everyday life of Turkish people as naturally as breathing. Over time, simit has grown far beyond the image of an ordinary street food. It has become part of the country's cultural memory, a gentle touch of nostalgia that people continue holding close to their hearts. Looking back at its long journey, you suddenly realize that what makes simit unforgettable has never been expensive ingredients or luxurious recipes. Everything begins with the simplest gifts of the earth: flour, grape molasses, and toasted sesame seeds. Yet once these humble ingredients pass through the twisting hands of generations of bakers, they somehow gain an incredible cultural depth. The true beauty of simit lies in the invisible meanings it carries with it. It reminds people to slow down in the middle of a busy life. It becomes an excuse for friends, families, and even strangers to break bread together, share stories, and sit side by side over a small glass of tea. And perhaps it is exactly this transformation of simplicity into a deeply human philosophy of life that allows simit to touch the deepest emotional corners of both locals and travelers from far away. As long as the waves of the Bosphorus continue brushing gently against the ferries, the warm and familiar cry of "Simitçi" will still echo through the streets every morning. The sight of bread vendors carrying towering trays of simit on their heads or standing beside their small red carts will continue to survive like a quiet brushstroke, preserving the old soul of Istanbul in the middle of a modern world. And when you finally leave this land behind, maybe you will forget some of the grand buildings and famous landmarks. But the smell of pinewood smoke, mixed with the rich aroma of toasted sesame, together with the warmth and kindness wrapped inside every ring of simit, will remain forever as a memory impossible to erase. A soft and comforting echo that keeps calling your heart back to Turkey again and again.